We are coming to you today from a very special location. This is your Raptors Weekly Extra Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Murphy. I am joined by, or should I say I'm joining, William Liu. We're recording the podcast in person for the first time since the inaugural extra episode. Will has been so kind as to welcome me into his home to meet his cats to record this podcast for you on this Friday. Will, what's going on, buddy?
I'm happy to have you here in the official podcast studio / just my apartment, my studio apartment. It's not really a studio apartment. It's 3 bedrooms.
Yeah, it's not a studio apartment at all. Not even by the loosest definition.
Did not work. Yeah, man, this is great because if you remember the first episode, Zarar got mad at us for
poor audio quality.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that doesn't happen again this time.
At the same time, he'd be here.
He could be here, yeah.
He could be in this small 2-person room, making it a 3-person room. This could be us
another
playing.
dinner chair, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Shit, that's all I was saying.
Well, you know, Zarar, I mean, he has got kids to take care of.
He does have kids to take care of.
Yeah, blog kids.
Yeah.
We're his blog kids, guys.
Yeah. I'm too old to be anyone's any kid.
Well, you're a man now, Blake.
Speaking of kids. The Minnesota Timberwolves are awesome.
That
game was so much fun on Wednesday night.
You were there in person?
I was there in person. I was at shoot-around earlier in the day. I was at pregame warm-ups. There is nothing about this team but fun. They just ooze fun. The Zach LaVine-Andrew Wiggins friendship up close is a ton of fun.
Okay.
Got a chance to talk to Tyus Jones and the Professor Andre Miller.
Mm-hmm. Andre
Andre Miller is not what you'd call fun, but Tyus Jones is a good young kid.
Andre Miller isn't fun?
Not really. No, he's
okay, all right,
he's an old head, man. He's almost 40.
All right.
Getting that buyout.
He's getting that buyout. Congratulations. He's probably going to go to the Clippers or Heat.
It's got to be the Clippers, right? Although the Heat just lost Beno Udrih, but I don't think the Heat can sign anyone until a little bit into March because of tax considerations.
That's true.
Maybe Andre Miller go on a little mid-season vacation.
We got to see Andre Miller talk for later in the podcast.
Is there Andre Miller talk coming later in the podcast?
No, this is it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We've said more than enough about Andre Miller.
Well, it wasn't
the plan.
Was not the plan.
Andre Miller is not one of the fun young Wolves, but he's been part of the mentorship. And damn, the Wolves look good. They look better every game. The Raptors took care of them on Wednesday, which is something they didn't do on February 10th. I thought they played equally poor on defense until the closing minutes. It was Andrew Wiggins going off instead of Karl-Anthony Towns. I thought DeRozan locked down on him well. What did you see from the Raptors in terms of a turnaround from that February 10th game where they let down? Because they won. It was at home. They probably should have won easier, but this Wolves team is really feisty.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where games aren't played on paper because on paper, it shouldn't have been this close. It was a very close game down to the last 2-3 minutes. Yeah, I think the difference was, the defense was pretty much the same, like you mentioned. But I thought they played harder on defense eventually. The energy really picked up in the second half. At least it really came through in the broadcast where I watched it. But
it definitely came through live too. That was a hot crowd.
Yes, and we'll get to some of the ulterior factors like questionable officiating that might have led to such a hostile atmosphere. But I thought that really fed well into the way the Raptors played because they, unlike the last time, the Raptors made some very defensively oriented subs very early on. You saw Bismack Biyombo and Patrick Patterson coming in a minute 30 into the second half, which is very rare. And I thought that really kind of set the tone a little bit, even though, immediately the defense was still just as bad. But eventually I think that I don't know, the second half was really, really intense. And there was no really intense moment from the Raptors in the pre-All-Star break game.
Yeah, and, being at home, every team in the league plays lip service to the value of a home crowd. The Raptors have now won 9 in a row at the Air Canada Centre. This has long been a fan base that supports a winning team well and gets loud for big games. Drake Night 3 was huge. Kobe Night was ridiculously loud.
Drake Night 3 sounds like a great movie.
Drake Night 3, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, keep on.
Kevin Hart would be in that movie somewhere, wouldn't he?
For sure. Kevin Hart is the most hardworking man on earth.
Anyway, it's going to be loud on Friday, too, for the Cavs. We'll talk about the Cavs game in a little bit. We'll jump off of your Biyombo-Patterson point to talk lineup stuff in a little bit. We're going to talk about Jonas Valanciunas, too. We're going to talk about a guy who was a big part in the crowd getting live. Let's finish up on this game. The Wolves, so I walk away from this game. It's great for the Raptors. Kyle Lowry said Thursday at practice, he was asked, the standard sarcastic question, And his response was, well, every game's a measuring stick. Playing a young, hungry Wolves team is a measuring stick. And I think that's accurate, and I think the Wolves are the kind of team where, this point in the season, maybe you run into a Nets or a Sixers or a Lakers, and they don't have the legs or they don't have the heart, and it's an easy win. The Knicks the other night were, once the Raptors got up, the Knicks just folded. Yep. The Wolves aren't that team. And that's great for the Wolves. I think it's a good sign of what they're building in terms of off-court. You get the impression, it's one day, but I got the impression really that this is, a united coaching staff, a united team. The guys are pulling for each other very much. And task cohesion is far more important than social cohesion when it comes to building a winning team. But I think the fact that these guys seem to get along well, Sam Mitchell seems to have a really good rapport even with the young guys. Mitchell obviously comes under some fire for his more tactical coaching decisions and some of the things he says from time to time, but he seems to have a good relationship with the young guys. The KG, Tayshaun Prince, Andre Miller mentorship program seems to be working pretty well. Tyus Jones graduating from that now that Andre Miller's gone. Check Vice Sports on Friday maybe for the education of Tyus Jones from the professor Andre Miller.
What a plug.
Yes.
Seamless.
Here's the question.
Yeah.
The Wolves are going to be good next year, even if they didn't have their first round pick coming in.
How good? Like, what are we talking about? Third year of the Thunder good, or like?
No, I think they will be fighting for the 8th spot in the Western Conference next year.
Okay.
They also, right now, as it stands, have an 8.8% chance at the number 1 pick, and will likely have a top 5 pick. Say they don't get the number 1 pick. Say they land number 5. Say they draft Kentucky standout freshman and Canadian, shout out to Kitchener-Waterloo, Jamal Murray.
Say it ain't so.
Say the Wolves, this young upstart team that could fight for a playoff spot next year, if you're of that mind like I am, that has Andrew Wiggins and Jamal Murray on the same team, that is, in terms of geography, further north than Toronto, and in terms of geography, could chip into maybe half a country worth of Raptors fan base. Do you see a scenario, say there's a Wiggins-Murray pairing? I think Murray fits pretty well, even with Rubio, Levine, and Wiggins there. They obviously need a big man a little more, but there's not going to be, maybe that's not there. So say they get Murray. They have Murray and Wiggins. I could see the Wolves being a team that maybe not in the Toronto area, but in terms of younger fans coming up who are fans of Canada basketball, first or equally to the Raptors, and then West Coast fans, I could see the Wolves eating into the Raptors fan base a little bit.
They the North, first of all. I guess it could happen. Canada basketball as an entity is like really popular, across the country. And while I think the Raptors will be largely unaffected, I think that there's enough of an appetite for everything. I don't think anyone necessarily is changing the channel away from Raptors games to see Timberwolves games, but that could change, man. If the Timberwolves get as good as their potential could be, if they're like Thunder level. And they have, like you said, basically like 2 of the best young Canadians out there with Jamal Murray and Andrew Wiggins. Like there's gonna be a lot of pressure. You'll probably see a lot of them on TSN too. A lot of the Timberwolves games are already being picked up here in Canada, and this is when the Timberwolves are kind of shit. So when they pick it up, personally, I would never watch away from the Raptors because I am a fan of the Raptors more than I am a fan of Canada per se. But does it add to a lot of national intrigue? For sure. And
I don't think it would be a bad thing for the Raptors either. When I say eat into the fan base a little bit, I'm not talking about you lose the entire West Coast. This isn't a Blue Jays Expos split or a Raptors Grizzlies split. But, some young fans coming up and some West Coast fans cheer for the Wolves. I think it gives you 2 marquee games a year that are, must-see for fans of both sides. I think it's only good for Canada basketball if those guys get paired up together, so long as the team does well. I'm probably overstating the potential for it, not just because the Wolves drafting Jamal Murray, drafting any particular player at this point is such a small odds, but Murray playing on a Canadian Olympic team would push that narrative. That doesn't seem something that's likely to happen, both because he might not be eligible to play, having not signed his rookie scale deal yet, and Canada might not make the Olympics.
That's a very sad point.
That's a podcast for another time.
That loss to Venezuela. Oh, my God.
I'm so excited for the women's side, though. Chris O'Leary of the Star and I were talking about it a little bit today, and the women's team is going to do well.
Is Kia Nurse going to...
Oh, yeah. Kia Nurse is going to play.
Rising superstar.
She can't not play.
That's true, yeah.
All right. The people probably don't tune into us. There probably aren't a lot of people that tune into us anyway, but...
Somebody's jogging right now and was not necessarily thrilled that we talked...
Look out!
All right.
Trying to mess up the joggers.
That was a good audio joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zara's going to kill me for that one.
That's why we have editing. Jamal Murray's going to come to the Raptors, all right? I'm convinced of this. First of all, the Raptors pick right now is like around 7th.
Yeah,
I'm not projected to be 7th.
I'm not convinced Murray...
He might drop that far.
I'm not convinced Murray drops that far. I wrote about Murray right around the turn of the year, and at that point his draft stock had fallen. Most of the major outlets, except for Sam Vecini of CBS Sports, had him out of the top 10 at that point. Yeah. And I wrote, I'm like, look, I understand the concerns. I understand that he's not creating a ton for others. I understand that he's never going to be good defensively. He probably tops out as not even as good as DeRozan as far as defense goes. Okay. But he can score like crazy, and Kentucky's spacing was complete horseshit the first half of the year. Murray had hit more than half of their threes. Now that Tyler Ulis's play has come up a little bit, now that the offense is finding its footing a little bit, Murray has been on one for like a month. I don't think he's going to be there wherever the Raptors pick. I think he's going to... By the time all's said and done, and teams can get him into workouts and see that, those perceived athleticism concerns at the 2, or those perceived size concerns at the 2, or, the fact that he hasn't played point guard all year because Ulis is there, when he gets into a gym and starts scoring on dudes, I think he's going to find his way to the top 5 because, guys who can score 20 points, even if they do some other things poorly, can score 20 points.
Yeah, well, it's just a dream. It's just a dream. It probably doesn't make a lot of sense, too, with the Raptors having so many guards. But, that is what it is. Blake, bless you for that sneeze.
All right, so the actual game, two big moments in terms of crowd noise and kind of swinging the game and pushing the intensity. One, Kyle Lowry's flagrant foul on Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah.
Originally called a common foul. I didn't have the benefit of replay in the arena. What did you think? Was that a flagrant foul? Was that Kyle Lowry's way of flipping off all of Canada?
No, it wasn't. Lowry was clearly trying to make a play for the ball. I think it was a violent impact. It was one of those things where they're both going for the ball, and Lowry gets the ball first, and then kind of chops Wiggins' arm a little bit. It's okay. It's a basketball play. It's a hard basketball play, which nowadays it's getting called as a flagrant one, but it's fine. That's fine. That was much less egregious than the straight ejection for Terrence Ross.
17-year-old William Liu. What are you, 23?
Back when I was watching the 2008 Celtics, Leon Poe.
I would never even change the 2K referee sliders to this back in 2K8. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy, back in your day.
2K08 with I don't even know who was on the cover, Dirk Nowitzki or something. Anyway.
Yeah, so Lowry, by the way, was hilarious at practice on Thursday. First practice at the new BioSteel Center. And they ask him about it, and he says, it's perfect. What was his exact wording? He's like, there's nothing to complain about. I mean, I could probably find something to complain about. It's sarcastic. Kyle Lowry is the best Kyle Lowry. And he was definitely, he was busting a lot of balls. Yeah. Busting chops.
That's a sweet new facility, man.
It's awesome.
I'm looking at these pictures. It's so shiny.
I had to get. They had to politely ask me to leave on Thursday because long after everyone else was gone, I was still in there working and just there's free coffee, man.
Oh, okay.
And Wi-Fi. I'm a vagabond when I come into Toronto.
That's the lifeblood of Blake Murphy right there.
Yeah.
Free coffee and Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Okay. So the other moment you mentioned, Terrence Ross. Called for a couple ticky-tack fouls. The one in question, he gets called for an offensive foul around midcourt on Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones weighs about as much as this microphone. I thought he embellished it a little bit. Again, I went back and watched this one for the benefit of replay. What did you think? I mean, he got hosed on the call a little bit, but Ross's reaction, obviously a much bigger deal. He gets teched, feigns throwing his mouth guard, gets teched again, gets tossed. Who was that?
Yeah, that's not TJ Ross. That's not the Ross that's usually critiqued for a lack of passion, a lack of outward passion, at least, And I think even some of the players said it afterwards. Like Patrick Patterson was like, I can't believe that was. Yeah, who is this guy that got super mad at the refs? But personally, I think it was okay as an ejection just because on the replay you do see him kind of pretend to whip the ball at the ref, and that's just not okay. You can't make stunts or any sort of potentially violent aggressions towards referees. So okay, I mean, I guess it was just like the climate that led up to it. I feel like was questionable because Tyus Jones on I think the play before that had again fallen to the ground on a drive, and he was called for a blocking foul, and it's probably one of those situations where Sam Mitchell goes over and says, "Hey, what, like that's a bang bang play. I hope you guys call it the same way the next time." And then you got Terrence Ross trying to bring the ball up. He kind of gets him once. It's not called, and then Tyus Jones falls again, basically. And at that point, it's an offensive foul on Terrence Ross. And from Ross's perspective, there's a guy who's like picking me up full court, and it looks honestly like Jones is fouling Ross. He's not quicker than Ross. He's not beating him to the spot. And it's not like Ross is driving that hard. I thought there were probably flops or at least somewhat embellishments. So I can see why Ross is really upset, but I think it was just generally like, it got kind of silly, especially to start the third quarter. It's for most of the third quarter, really. I don't think either team was particularly happy.
Yeah, I mean, the Wolves should be happy. They got 33 free throw attempts a game after getting 53 against the Raptors.
53. Yeah. That was also most of that was the Raptors.
Yes.
Defense.
You're absolutely correct. In terms of TJ showing emotion,
yeah.
Dwayne Casey said after the game that's not the kind of passion that he wants. He said, if you want to show passion, get a rebound, take a charge, dive for a loose ball. I say
those are not TJ.
I say
moves.
Bullshit. Terrence Ross has been accused of not caring and floating through games and having no heart and no passion for 4 years now.
Yeah.
I don't care if it was that he was complaining about a call. He showed something. Casey's right. It's wrong. And like Casey actually had a really interesting quote after the game. He said he's too valuable for us to do that.
He is.
Which is crazy that that's a quote that he can say in earnest right now about TJ Ross.
Yeah,
TJ Ross is too valuable.
I mean, look, you won't find many more TJ fans than me. So, I agree with you that any sort of emotion from TJ Ross is great. And also, I mean, the Raptors really needed his shooting. He came in the second quarter. He was a huge part of that turnaround that briefly got the Raptors back to like a 10-point lead because he came in and just kept dropping threes, kept a couple nice defensive plays. This is just something you come to expect out of Terrence Ross nowadays, which is super weird. TJ, Terrence, Eli, anything.
Eli Bands, yeah. Expect is the right word because Terrence Ross is now part of the best lineup in basketball. In terms of I'm going to qualify it. I'm going to qualify it in terms of lineups that have played at least 150 minutes together this season.
Yeah.
The Kyle Lowry and bench unit
the 4-1-6 lineup.
I don't like that.
You don't like that one? Okay.
Is the number one lineup in basketball, plus 31.7 net rating.
I thought the
minimum
lineup was like
minimum 150 minutes.
Okay,
that's number one. Maybe the death lineup hasn't played 150.
Well, that's because Barnes had a lot of injuries to start the season.
So minimum 150.
Yeah.
Axe out all the really good.
If we play with arbitrary endpoints.
That's still like 150 minutes as far as lineups go. Is like lineup data is never big enough. Like. If you look at a player's season, it's 2,000 minutes, and even then, you're unconvinced about certain things. The threshold for three-point shooting, for example, that doesn't stabilize until around 750 attempts, which for most guys is like 3 seasons.
Yeah.
So when you're cutting lineup data down into 100 minutes or 200 minutes, even like a lineup that plays a ton together gets say 500 minutes for a season. And you can't control for the quality of competition, which is something this particular lineup, they're playing heavy minutes against opposing bench units.
Yep.
The starting lineup for the Raptors, which no matter who they throw in the starting lineup has been horseshit. We'll talk more about that in a minute.
Yeah.
That has come against other starting lineups. So how do you control for that? That's something hockey started to do a little better with quality of competition, quality of line mates. I think basketball can get to that point, certainly. But for right now,
it's a dark day for basketball stats if they're falling behind hockey stats.
It's not that they're falling behind necessarily. It's just that it's something that hockey has made a point of qualifying.
That's true.
And hockey's running into its own thing now, where the whole thing where the act of observing something changes it fundamentally.
Yes.
And Corsi and Fenwick got to the point so much that it almost hit a tipping point where some teams started to see shots as the goal instead of goals.
That's my NHL, my Chell strategy. I can't do one-timers and stuff, so I just fire like 50 shots.
Try to get rebounds?
Yeah. Yeah, not all shots are equal.
Yeah,
and you see a little bit with the Rockets doing this, by the way, too. With the
hashtag not all shots. Yeah.
Hashtag not all shots. Wow. Jeez.
Yeah, the Rockets are certainly guilty of that. Seth Partnow wrote something really good about that.
Right.
I forget where it was for. It wasn't for Nylon Calculus.
Probably was
Washington
for
Post?
WAPO, yeah.
Yeah. By the way, anyone who doesn't
Fancy
follow
numbers.
Seth Partnow and read everything he writes is missing out. That guy is incredibly intelligent.
Not only is he really intelligent and one of the forefront thinkers in terms of, at least on the blogosphere, but I also know that some front offices, some stats people across the league talk to Seth.
Yeah. He's very good.
He's also just a very talented writer, and he's one of those people that you hear about all the time, that front offices want someone who understands the stats but can communicate them well and understand them and contextualize them within the framework of how the sport works.
Sharon.
There you go. Another hockey guy.
Yeah. And then I shouldn't drop the name I was about to drop. Yeah, Seth is also a really good dude and a big wrestling fan, which is so funny because I think it's funny that I'm an idiot and I like wrestling, but Seth, who is one of the foremost basketball analytics thinkers and is one of the smartest people I've ever talked to, is also a wrestling fan.
Blake is selling himself short. Blake is like Seth in many ways.
No,
mostly for the beard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, one other Terrence Ross thing. We have to mention it because I've been asked about it a few times. I don't want to tweet anything about it because really I don't care.
Okay. I tweeted about it. Check my Twitter.
Yeah, at William_Lou. Terrence Ross appears to be dating Amber Rose, which, again, I don't care who athletes date. I don't care about their personal life. I'm not of the mind it could affect his play all that much. But this is going to come up if it's... And I should be clear that, I could post a picture on Instagram right now with a female friend of mine. It doesn't mean we're dating. The simultaneous...
Shout out to all Blake's side bays.
Yeah. The simultaneous posting of hinting at lovey Instagram posts from Amber Rose and Terrence Ross at the same time.
There's comments in... You gotta dive into the comments.
Oh, I'm not doing that.
You're not diving in the comments? Well... Amber Rose responded to Terrence Ross's picture and called him bae and shit. So
well, it appears that's going down.
It's official.
So,
it's
it doesn't mean anything for the Raptors or for Terrence Ross. We address it only because Terrence Ross is going to become the worst NBA player to ever get mentioned in a Kanye song to go along with being the worst NBA player ever to drop a 50-piece.
Oh, man.
So, Terrence Ross's resume is so far going to outstrip his actual production some point in the very near future.
He's going to one-up Swaggy, who got dropped in facts.
Yeah, that's the worst track of all time. That might actually...
That's pretty bad, yeah.
That might actually hurt Nick Young's reputation.
I like that it's at the end of Kanye's album. You could just end it.
Yeah.
Just don't listen to the last two.
By the way, how disappointed... We talked about Wolves earlier. We should have brought that... We should have pulled the Kanye talk earlier.
Okay.
The song Wolves is great. But he couldn't have had the foresight to realize that, the Timberwolves are also going to be great. Maybe I should make this song a little more intro appropriate.
Okay.
Because the beat and the energy of that song would be great for an intro song, but you can't drop an F-bomb before you say Wolves every time. The Wolves are... There's no editing around that.
Yeah.
It's disappointing.
It's disappointing. It's not like...
shit together, Kanye.
Like Drake's stuff, man. Drake is gives the Raptors an endless supply of music to put on that highlight pack. This is a new one, by the way, right? The one that they've been showing, yesterday and also against the Grizzlies, I think.
Yeah, I usually use that time as my pregame, go get a coffee.
Okay,
time.
Well, that's usually
because I've seen it a bunch of times now.
That's true.
But yeah, maybe it changed. I don't know.
Good. Yeah, I think it's different. I think this is the first time in a long time it's not Drake, or maybe I'm just not listening to enough Drake. But
okay.
Yeah.
Well, Game Ops is, if you ever go to a Raptors game, you'll be listening to enough Drake for sure. Which is fine. Drake's awesome.
Shout out to Four Corners.
No,
not really. We take
shout
that
out to
back.
DJ
Psych.
Andre 905 though.
That's right.
The 905 Game Ops DJ.
We've talked about him here before, but he's
he's awesome.
got a fire mixtape. You should grab it.
Yeah. I go Sir Foster, Giant Gap, DJ Andre 905, Giant Gap, everyone else.
I didn't know Sir Foster was black.
You didn't know the guy who does organ versions of hip hop songs at the Atlanta Hawks basketball game?
I imagine
I guess you shouldn't assume he's not. You shouldn't assume he's anything.
I just don't know why. Most Oregon players in my mind was
the old white guy at Maple Leaf Gardens.
Yeah, that definitely. No, I imagine a Lee Ellis lookalike. Maybe it's just because the starters would always talk about Sir Foster. Okay. That's where I found out. But yeah, I just thought he was a white dude. But then Yeah, man, shout out to him.
Okay,
it
so
makes a lot more sense, actually.
One more Terrence Ross question.
Yes.
How much money does this guy owe me? I rebrand this dude, immediately takes off 10.7 points a game, 40.9% three-point shooting since December 7th when I rebranded TJ Ross. He's now developed a personality and an edge on the court. He's now too valuable to get kicked out of a game. He's now dating a celebrity girlfriend. I mean, can I at least get some dat?
Guys, holler at Blake Murphy ODC. He'll change your life, literally, by changing your name. But
not just that. Maybe I'll just change something else about it. Maybe I'll change your face.
Change your face. Be happy. Yeah, change your face. He'll change your face. And
all right, we're gonna talk about this lineup thing. Let's talk about the Cavs game first because they're very related. Sure. The Raptors host the Cavs on Friday. It's the second time they host them this year. They beat them earlier in the year on Drake Night 3.
Yes.
The Cavs were without Kyrie Irving.
Yes.
The Cavs shit-kicked the Raptors in Cleveland.
Second night of a back-to-back.
Sure.
Yeah.
Didn't they drop the first half of that back-to-back too?
But that was a Jimmy Butler game. Jesus. That was a rough 2-game stretch.
That was right before the 17 wins in 20 game stretch though. So this game is important on a couple levels. It's important because the Raptors have gone on this 17 of 20 stretch. One of those losses in there is to the Chicago Bulls. The 2 games preceding this stretch were losses to the Chicago Bulls and the Cleveland Cavaliers, and a couple games before that, they also lost to the Chicago Bulls. So, the last 4 times the Raptors have played a quality opponent, save for maybe the game they hosted the Clippers, where the Clippers were hungover as shit, and Blake Griffin had punched out his friend.
Yep.
The Raptors really haven't had tests on this level. And there are exceptions. There are good teams that have come in or good teams Raptors have visited.
But who played much, much better than...
As Kyle Lowry said, every game is a measuring stick for them.
For sure.
But, fans they're not justified in thinking that the winning doesn't matter if it's not against these teams. But I certainly understand the mind that the Raptors have done a lot of damage against teams they should beat. And early in the year, they were making good work of teams that maybe they didn't have business beating. They had a couple marquee road victories early on. They beat the Cavs at home.
OKC.
This is their first test
Yep.
in a little while. And they dropped that Chicago test, which shouldn't even have been a test because there was no Jimmy Butler, no Nikola Mirotic, no Joakim Noah. So this is their first chance to really have a marquee win in well over a month. It's also important because if they win, they'll be 2 games back of Cleveland and own the tiebreaker for the number 1 seed in the East. If they lose, they're 4 games back and don't own the tiebreaker. A loss Friday essentially ends all hope of them winning the conference. A win gives them, not that it matters that they have a goal the rest of the way, but they could at least, it's something to hang on the board and something to work towards if they're only 2 games back of the Cavs.
Yeah.
So it's important in those regards. It's not important in the sense that it's 1 game out of 82, as the Raptors and head coach Dwayne Casey will tell you. I think it's important because it's going to be interesting to see how the Raptors handle Kevin Love. Because he is, that's exactly the type of player that the Raptors have struggled with when they're much lesser players. Ersan Ilyasova is not Kevin Love.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name? Jason Smith is not Kevin Love.
Jason Smith, yeah, wow.
These are guys that the Raptors have struggled with. And Kevin Love is yeah, I'm not just shouting at white guys, Ryan Anderson would be that.
Channing Frye.
Channing Frye. There you go.
Jeez.
Melted face Channing Frye. Yeah.
It does look like that.
Yeah, his face is melting.
Man, he spent too much time in Orlando.
Oh boy. So I'm interested to see how they guard Kevin Love. You talked a little bit about how Luis Scola and Jonas Valanciunas got a quick hook against a kind of a rangy Minnesota frontcourt in Karl-Anthony Towns and Gorgui Dieng. Kevin Love is going to do those same things. The Kevin Love-Tristan Thompson frontcourt is not a good matchup for the Raptors.
No.
How do you think they approach that, and could this be the matchup that is finally the impetus for a starting lineup change?
It could be, right? You're seeing signs already. Like I said earlier, in the second half of that Timberwolves game, starters don't get pulled that quickly. And like a minute 30 in, they were pulled. So if they flounder again, and I don't really see Jonas and Scola being able to, I don't think they'll be able to match the mentality of someone like Tristan Thompson on the defensive glass, and also to have the mobility to challenge something like a LeBron Love pick and roll. That's kind of terrifying. I think the one...
to be clear, that's terrifying for 29 teams in the NBA.
It is, for sure. I think the one saving grace may be that perhaps LeBron, in previous matchups with the Raptors, he's done a lot of isolation stuff. I'll sit in the post and I'll distribute from there. So maybe you won't necessarily test that flaw, or maybe even the Cavaliers hide their hand. Maybe they're seeing the Raptors down the line. They say, who cares about this one game? But, I mean, yeah, that's the terrifying thing, and I think that was one of my many fears at the trade deadline, was how would you defend that LeBron-Love pick-and-roll combo? And I guess if you have a healthy DeMarre Carroll and you have a healthy Patrick Patterson, then there's enough switchability, there's enough versatility there. And I think in the absence of DeMarre Carroll this time, obviously James Johnson got a lot of those minutes, and then once James Johnson does some dumb things on defense, DeMar DeRozan's going to get that assignment, which is such a hell of an assignment. But he did a really good job of it last time the Cavaliers were here in Toronto. But I think, yeah, basically you'll see a lot of Patrick Patterson because Kevin Love is a hard matchup to gauge against.
Here's a guess for Friday night.
Yeah.
You also see a fair amount of Patrick Patterson on LeBron James.
Yes.
I think Dwayne Casey is going to want to see how he holds up against LeBron, not because necessarily he would be a LeBron option in the playoffs, but the ability to switch Carroll and Patterson on a LeBron-Love pick and roll could be huge.
Yep.
Patterson has been terrific defensively this year. He's really shown he can switch out onto guards. He can handle most fours, stretchy or post up. Some guys he's going to give up a little bit in the post too, but for the most part he can chase those rangy guys around. He can help switch onto guards. The big test for him right now, and he did a pretty good job on Carmelo Anthony the other night, is can he guard these bigger forwards, which would open up him and Carroll switching when it comes down to it in the playoffs. Not just for the Love matchup, but we'll talk about in a second. Most teams the Raptors are going to play have a rangier four in the starting lineup. I've long been of the mind, I wrote on opening night that I thought Luis Scola starting was a mistake. It's always made more sense at both ends of the floor, just in terms of how you want to balance your units, how you want to balance your offense, and then defensive versatility to start Patterson, have Scola come off the bench with second unit. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it should. Love is going to stretch Casey's patience with that Scola-Valanciunas lineup, and Casey doesn't want to make the starting lineup switch, and I don't think he's going to. Scola is a veteran who's bringing a ton to this team off the court. I had an awesome conversation with him before Wednesday's game about how he's kind of taking that leadership role and recalibrating everyone to make sure no one gets too fat and happy because they haven't done anything yet. Yep. He was the impetus for kind of an informal team meeting after the Bulls lost to remind the guys of exactly that they haven't won anything yet. Scola's bringing a ton to the team, and if Casey doesn't want to upset him, and I don't think it would upset him. Scola's enough of a pro that I think he would understand. But if Casey doesn't want to rock the boat, I get that. The issue is that come playoff time, they're going to need to switch. Your margin for error is too small. You can't concede losing the first and third quarter every game, or the first couple minutes of the first and third quarter every game. And even with DeMarre Carroll back, that starting unit wasn't effective. Part of that was Carroll struggling maybe, and maybe the spacing Carroll adds over James Johnson opens up the offense. That should be on paper a really good offensive unit.
Yes, for sure.
Defensively, it might still have trouble, but Carroll, being a little more reliable than a James Johnson or a Norm Powell helps. I'm of the mind they should make the switch soon, just because the earlier you make it, the easier it is. I don't know, man. They got to do it. You look at the teams they might play in the playoffs. Every single one of them is going to be a problem for the Scola-Valanciunas frontcourt.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go over them. They're not going to play Boston in the first round, probably, in Atlanta. But both of those teams like to go 5 out. Amir Johnson's the only really interior, the only guy tethered to the paint that the Celtics play in their frontcourt rotation. The Hawks off the bench go bigger, but Horford and Millsap would be a terror.
It would be a terror.
Miami, if Bosch is healthy, would be a huge problem. If he's not, they'll probably go small anyway, and then Dang's your 4.
Dang's played really well, too, recently. He had a 30-point game, and he played pretty well against the Warriors.
What's scary is that Whiteside's defense has been a lot better lately.
Yeah, Zach Lowe subtweeting all those bloggers out there that kept going to the plus-minus numbers when it came to Hassan Whiteside's defense. Well, those numbers have improved a lot, and now the eye test matches up a little bit better with the numbers themselves.
I still think he's one of those guys that is the bigger gaps box score to actual impact.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm certainly not maxing him if I'm an executive this summer.
There are very desperate teams out there.
There are teams
the
out
Lakers
there, and there's a lot of money
exist.
out there. There's a lot of money out there. So Miami would be a problem. Indiana, the Paul George, C.J. Miles, that's... C.J. Miles isn't a terror offensively, but he's going to pull a guy outside and force him to be chased. Who else? Detroit with Tobias Harris and Marcus Morris, and not Ursan Ilyasova anymore. No Valanciunas, which is all right. Anthony Tolliver's hurt.
Anthony Tolliver, Papatoli.
But, Marcus Morris and Tobias Harris could be a problem in that regard. Who else is in that fringe playoff spot? Washington
Charlotte.
added Markieff Morris, who has been garbage for them, but
he's much more athletic. Yeah, I think your general point, even aside from just matchup-wise, it's just the Raptors would be just at a talent disadvantage too, just because power forward is clearly the spot that they, I guess, are weakest at. But that also undersells Patterson a little bit. Patrick Patterson has played really well.
The thing is, the duo itself isn't that bad. It's okay to have one weak spot in your lineup. I just think, and this is the thing. It's not. I've tweeted about it a ton, and I've written about it a little bit. It's not an anti-Scola thing. I like Scola.
He's been a really good dude.
I think he's in a bit of a slump. He's playing the most minutes he's played in 3 seasons, which is not a good thing to do for a guy who's 35 or 36 years old.
Yep.
But I just think it's a poor use of them. I think Patterson is still struggling by his own admission on the offensive end, and playing him with Lowry, DeRozan, and Valanciunas is going to get him more clean looks from outside, and it's going to help those guys too by stretching the floor. Luis Scola's offense will be helped by manning up the second unit, and he would lift the second unit in that regard. I know that second unit has been the best bench in basketball over the last couple months, but I'm looking ahead to the playoffs. It's weird how the fan base at the same time seems to be in agreement that nothing in the regular season matters, but also not wanting to make a change that is not a change for the sake of making a change now. It's a sake of changing now so you're comfortable in the playoffs. And I don't know, man. I don't want Scola starting a playoff game.
Yeah. No, yikes. Yeah, even the thought of that, it makes me a little bit queasy because, we've had years, like last year, Tyler Hansbrough was the surprise starter in the playoffs.
Landry Fields.
Jesus, yeah. So, the Raptors, yeah. You know what? And going back to your chase with the Cleveland thing, I think the only positive with potentially chasing first is that it puts the pressure on Cleveland to keep playing LeBron. Don't rest LeBron.
If they can.
Chasing it, which it seems like they care because LeBron keeps coming out with comments like, I'm a football guy. I play a lot of minutes. I'm not about rest. Whatever.
I don't believe in science. I heard the jury's still out on science.
yeah.
Shout out to Dwayne Price. World is flat ass motherfucker.
Jesus, Dwayne Price, the B.O.B. of basketball reporters.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is a benefit there to getting the first seed, but again,
the benefit is much larger for the Raptors than it is for the Cavaliers.
Yeah, but is that even worth chasing for the Raptors? I think Raptors right now.
I don't think chasing is the right word.
Okay.
You know how firmly I'm in the camp that Kyle Lowry needs to get his minutes scale back a little bit.
Very much.
Encouraging. Dwayne Casey said Wednesday night that they're trying to get Cory Joseph more minutes because he's been playing so unbelievably well. Can we just for a second? Cory Joseph against the Wolves was the Raptors' best defender at all 5 positions. He switched.
Stupid.
He was on Karl Anthony Towns for 2 possessions and was fine.
Yeah,
Cory Joseph is the man.
He's a great dude. Apparently a great ambassador for the city of Toronto as well during All-Star.
Is that something you've heard?
Yeah.
What are we talking here?
Guys, just know that Cory Joseph is the best.
He was
right?
the ambassador.
Very handsome Raptor. Perhaps the most handsome Raptor? I don't know. Nick and Barry talked about this a bit.
If Cory Joseph is the
most handsome Raptor? Yeah. I don't know if that's for us to breach.
Yeah, I'm not about that.
You're not about that?
I am on Twitter all the time.
Okay, all
right. Doug McDermott.
Really though, Doug McDermott?
Up close, man. Nobody agrees with me on this one, but
you got to see him up close.
Striking eyes.
All right. They look kind of dead on the broadcast.
Yes.
Like hauntingly dead.
Yeah, gray instead of blue.
Yes.
Yeah. Hauntingly dead eyes.
He's also very pale. It honestly looks like a corpse.
Yeah. He looks like he's from that show I Zombie with all the zombies walking around. Shout out to whatever network that's on.
Cory Joseph's great, man. What a great signing. Just this is just a casual.
Is so good.
A casual reminder that the Raptors opened up the cap space in part by trading Gravis Vasquez for a first-round pick, a second-round pick that's now Norman Powell on a super cheap contract.
Yep. That's getting moved this offseason, probably.
Probably. And yeah, man, that was a great trade. And Gravis Vasquez, unfortunately, has not performed very well with the Bucks, but he's been injured.
Predictably. Has not performed very well. What? The Bucks had such a bad offseason.
What the hell were they doing? How could you trade Zaza? Everyone knows Zaza is an RPM master.
Yeah.
He is.
Also is hilarious. Which, I feel like just for having him around would be would be fun. Like, I don't want to lose Scola and Biyombo just because they're fun to have around.
That's true, yeah.
The wisdom from those two guys.
Mm.
Biyombo's gone, though. Skola's probably gone, too. Everyone's gone.
Yeah. Life moves on, you know. But the one thing
My role player left me.
The one thing Masai Ujiri has consistently shown ability to is just, like, make these acquisitions around the margins. Like, you're looking at Gravis Vasquez, Williams, James Johnson, even to a bit. Like, he's done a really good job with some of this.
He has done a good job. And, you know, who knows? The one that gets me is that, and it's completely an unfair criticism, he paid market value for a guy he really liked and on paper fit the Raptors really well. And you can't say anything about the Carroll contract because we haven't seen Carroll yet, basically.
Yeah.
But Jay Crowder, 5 years, $35 million? Is that what he ended up signing for?
Yeah, that contract is stupid.
That is obscene.
Stupid.
Like,
yeah.
He
couldn't shoot as well as Carroll before that. But,
which is a serious concern because, like, look at what the starting lineup looks like right now with a decent defender who can't shoot. James Johnson's shot's been better lately, of course, but as we've talked about before, spacing is not about your three-point percentage. Spacing is about how much attention defenses pay to you and how much you accordion the defense. And that Jay Crowder thing, he'd sure look good in that starting 3 spot for way less salary. But there are 29 teams that also didn't offer Jay Crowder more than 5 years, $35 million.
Yeah, he was restricted.
And who knows if he's that good outside of Boston, where Brad Stevens is a friggin' magician.
Didn't Kyle Singler sign like 5 years, 30 or something?
Oh yeah, that was a much less good deal.
Jesus, man.
Enes Kanter is also making a boatload of money to keep Kevin Durant from playing power forward, and if he wins 6th Man of the Year, I'm gonna riot. One-man riot. Because, like, he's played really well on the offensive end. Well, yeah. And, like, even his defense is picked up to where he's, like, sometimes passable.
He's Turkish Jonas.
But, yeah,
sorry,
basically.
that's a low blow. It's a low blow.
But, like...
They profile similarly. Except Enos is much worse on defense.
Much worse.
Which is kind of crazy to think about sometimes.
He's also...
Because Jonas...
Yeah.
Is a divisive...
Oh, are we going to... Is this how we're transitioning into Jonas?
Buddy, that was perfect. You went to Enos Kanter, and
I looked at the clock and was hoping that we didn't talk about Jonas. My point with Enes Kanter... I was actually going to bring it back to the Cory Joseph point, in that, you know, counting stats-wise, he probably doesn't have a great case. Every advanced metric suggests, and like watching the Raptors and how they function as a whole and they're second in the East, Cory Joseph has a very legitimate 6th Man of the Year case.
Yep. Look how great... Okay, 2 things about subs. One, if you have a sub that can, like, hold down his own unit and also play within the starting unit, that's very valuable because suddenly you get to this point where he's now playable at all times.
Yeah.
And also, in terms of subs, like, it's hard for a lot of subs to come in, make immediate impact, and be consistent. I think this is one of the things that the Raptors have a nice benefit of, not just with Cory Joseph, but with Patrick Patterson. At least with Patterson, he's a little bit inconsistent because of his shot, but at least his defense, it's always there. Bismack Biyombo, his defensive rebounding is always there. And, you know, these are harder to quantify things, but it's just very reliable. Like, it's in years past, you've seen the Raptors bring in their bench. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It just seems like this year, at least it's schematically what they want to do, they're going to be able to do it, and whether or not they get positive results is another thing, but it's nice to have reliability off the bench. Cory Joseph is one of those beautiful, beautiful players who can do that.
Yeah,
you know?
And one of the counters against his case will be that, you know, lineups without Lowry and with Cory Joseph haven't been very effective, which is fine because they're predominantly bench-heavy units and you don't expect them to do that well, but also my counter to that is that Cory Joseph has made Kyle Lowry better. Because when they're on the floor together, which is 15, 16 minutes a game, which is way more than anyone expected because Cory Joseph has forced Dwayne Casey's hand, Lowry has really taken advantage of that time playing off the ball as an attack guard instead of a point guard. And like his assist numbers aren't that of an elite point guard because for 15 minutes a game he's playing shooting guard and he's been unbelievable from outside and he's attacking off the catch, or as they turn a Joseph pick and roll into a Lowry pick and roll on the other side of the floor, he's been unstoppable.
Yep.
And then defensively, he gets easier assignment. He gets the ball hawk. His steals are way back up this year. He gets the friendlier matchup, which helps saves him. He hasn't hit the wall at all, despite playing even more minutes than last year, because in part he's not carrying as much of a load for those reasons. It's been great. Shout out to Cory Joseph. Jonas Valanciunas, not quite as reliable as those names that you mentioned. let's do this Jonas Valanciunas one quick, just because we're at 45 minutes, and, I think everyone who hates Jonas Valanciunas has made their points. Everyone who likes Jonas Valanciunas has made their points. I'm the lone person stuck in the middle, where, I don't understand how people hate or love Jonas Valanciunas, because he's fine.
Okay, right. Can I explain perhaps the dichotomy? Okay,
yes.
So
should we call Harsh?
Oh boy! Shout out to I am Harsh Dave, the defeated one of my co-hosts there. He's out on Baby Ostertag.
Shout out to the man who's going to revolutionize Twitter by forcing them to add the Harsh button.
That's one of your best ideas. When you tweeted it out, everybody thought you were subtweeting Harsh.
But I wasn't in this case. Yeah. I was subtweeting someone else who tweeted at me that the Blue Jays should trade Jose Bautista if he won't sign an extension, which is garbage because the Toronto Blue Jays have a window for 2016. That's the suggestion earlier in the year the Raptors should trade DeMar DeRozan if he won't agree beforehand to re-sign with the team. Yeah. But guess what? This team has a window into the deepest playoff run they've maybe ever made. So you don't give away a guy.
Also, salary cap league versus non-salary cap league.
Yes.
Some things. Anyway, so.
Also, Jose Bautista is the best.
Oh, exactly, man. Jesus Christ.
So, Jonas Valanciunas, not the best. Go.
Okay. I'm just trying to explain the division in terms of why some people actually dislike Jonas a lot.
Racism.
I think it's not
Us
that.
white folk can't get a break, man.
I mean, look how many games Louis Scola had started. Okay, so let's just think back 3-4 years ago, the Raptors. Well, 3 years ago, the Raptors wanted the tank. They traded away Rudy Gay. Franchise. Jonas Valanciunas is probably their most valuable piece at that point. This is before Kyle Lowry emerged as the superstar and DeMar DeRozan emerged as a star. Jonas Valanciunas was the future, man. It was the future, and that's when I started blogging back then. I remember writing pieces about comparing Jonas' numbers to Andre Drummond, because they both came in the same rookie class or same rookie year, not draft class, but same doing stat comparisons. Basically the idea was that Jonas is going to be this franchise savior, and I guess that's unfair because not only have the Raptors pivoted away from where their importances are. If the Raptors had tanked, Jonas probably gets to be featured. You get to see a Nick Vucevic type of production out of him, except with free throws, because I don't know what Vucevic is. Anyway.
It's weird that Vucevic is a good mid-range shooter and bad free throw shooter.
That's that too, yeah. That's a very good point. And the second thing is it's also unfair for Jonas to always have to wear that, because if you look at it just objectively, Jonas is a good player. Yeah. He could be a very good player when you put him in the right matchups, and I think this is probably the point that you're trying to make. And he is limited in other ways, and I think the sooner that we recalibrate our expectations for him, and then no longer feel super disappointed every single time he misses a pick and roll coverage, or he bricks a long jumper, or he continues to not pass that great. Although he's got a couple nice.
I was going to make that point after. I was talking to him Wednesday about passing a little bit. He gets super excited about passing.
He's a yeah.
Yeah, he likes the idea of, as
he's got a little bogan in him,
being a good teammate. Well, Sabonis is his idol.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Not Domantas Sabonis. Not Gonzaga sophomore and likely late first round pick of the Toronto Raptors.
Teammate of Jonas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a great conversation with. This is a serious, just swag drop, but reporter. I sat down with Nick Nurse at practice on Thursday, and we talked about Jonas and his development and how the team uses him and can use him more and what he has to do to get used more. I'll have something on it for Sportsnet in the next week or two. I'm trying to track down some more people to talk to about it. But the point is that he does some things very well that the Raptors could leverage more, like you mentioned, on a different timeline or in a different system. Right now, he's doing, offensively at least, everything that's asked of him very well. Yep. He's improved as a screen setter. He's improved as a passer. His post-game's strong. He's shooting 50% from beyond 10 feet, which is a small sample.
A little bit surprising to me,
honestly. Small sample, but something he's put the work in for. He spent a lot of time shooting threes this summer, just get those reps in.
Jack Sigma.
Yeah.
Teaching the young and well.
But offensively, he could do more.
He could.
If the Raptors, the last 5 games or so, they're looking for him a little bit more in the pick and roll.
Yep.
But the Raptors are one of the most pick and roll heavy teams in basketball and rarely use the dive man. They don't pop a lot if you're not Patrick Patterson or Louis Scola. Valanciunas and Biyombo don't pop. Biyombo because he...
Buddy, we've seen Biyombo pop a couple times.
We've seen him. He's got that 1 14-footer on the year. But the thing is, to get disappointed with Valanciunas on the offensive end isn't fair because he's doing what's asked of him quite well. His usage is north of 20% for the first time. All his efficiency metrics are strong. He works the offensive glass incredibly well.
He does, yeah.
So, like, and he's improved as a screen setter, not just like the firmness of his screens, but changing direction on his picks, not slipping them as early if he's going to dive or pop. He's improved in those regards. And, defensively, it's still a work in progress, which, here's a reminder, I know he's not going to get quicker, but he's 23 years old, which is well before the peak years of a big man. They tweaked the system. It's year one of a new system. I think he's responding mostly well to, particularly when he drops back against the guard, navigating that space between the dive man and the guard, where, sometimes before you get put in the blender a little bit. And there's small improvements, and overall, no, he's not a great defender at all.
Yeah.
But I think he's been fine. Like, he's not asked to be this team's even third best player. He's supposed to be their third best offensive weapon, maybe fourth when they're using Scola early on. And then defensively, he's just supposed to hold the fort. And that's the reason they got better perimeter defenders, was to put less of a... And I think it's, him and Biyombo have been a great 1-2 punch. I think if there's a different backup center, people see Valanciunas' defense differently. The reality is he's being backed up by a terrific really rim protector.
Yep.
So all of Valanciunas' shortcomings at the rim are magnified by the fact that Biyombo comes in right away and erases the entire 180 degrees.
Yeah, stylistically, they play within the same schemes, but Bismack Biyombo looks much more impressive while doing it, and he's better on defense, I would say.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah,
I just think the concerns about Valanciunas are overblown. Yeah, he's going to make $16 million a year starting next year.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Look how many centers around the league, man. You got like Robin Lopez, who oddly enough had a pretty good game against Jonas until he didn't, and then Jonas cooked him.
Yeah. Valanciunas is going to be getting paid market value
through his prime years.
Yes, through the first 4 years of, say, the 6-year top of the aging curve for a big man, which is fine, and he's already good. And they could use him more. Like, there are probably positive EV touches they could funnel his way and use more, but that's not... This team has two very, very good perimeter-oriented attack off the pick and roll players.
Yeah, that's also the thing too, because I get that a little bit here, which is one of the most common critiques is just like, well, if Jonas got the ball more, he can post better numbers. But like the point of the coach is not to maximize
everyone's numbers.
Yeah, it's to maximize the team. And right now, honestly, the team is doing really well. Could they stand to improve by giving a few more touches? Sure, but I also think that a lot of the Raptors' success this season is you just see the ball flows better. If one side doesn't work with the pick and roll, they swing really quickly, they swing to the other side, they work another one. It's beautiful, and this is another great thing about having Cory Joseph is that he can keep the same sets moving at all times, and it's just like this constant churn that you can't guard both sides of the floor at once. And if you give it to Jonas, the possession dies a little bit.
bit. They have gotten a little more creative with how they're using him, how he's passing. It's not just the 2-5 to set up it's not just the 2-5 cross to set up him posting up.
Yeah. It's been a lot less post-ups for him this year, I feel like, actually.
Yeah, at least on the very low block.
Yeah. For sure.
And one thing they can do more is out of pick and rolls, then kind of not improvised post-ups, where it's not not clearing out one side of the floor for him to post up. Maybe he sets a screen and then
he rolls
into especially if the pass goes to the corner, then he rolls right into a spot on the block. He can probably get deep post position that way, and then either the help is going to be slow to recover into the corner, or the help's going to recover into the corner, and then it's going to flow right into a post up. That's something I think DeMarre Carroll. It's so weird to figure out how DeMarre Carroll is going to come back into this offense, because defense I'm not concerned about. He's going to be good defensively. But we didn't see good DeMarre Carroll, and I think his passing is he's not a high assist guy, but he keeps the ball moving exactly how you were just talking about. And I think those are the kind of plays where maybe he's gonna bring something that nobody looks for Jonas Valanciunas more than James Johnson.
That's true.
But
James Johnson's also a possession hog, and I don't mean that, and I just mean that he's reticent to pass.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Anyway, I think the Jonas Valanciunas thing, it's a weird thing where he's almost where James Johnson was earlier in the year, where some people hate him so staunchly that any positive comments about Jonas now seem like Jonas love. And some people love him so much that any negative comments seem like Jonas hate. Me and Karina are the reasonableists. I sit somewhere in the middle.
That's true. That's true.
Probably I thought I sat right in the middle on Johnson. I think I probably skewed towards the, liking Jonas a little bit more than the average. Not necessarily like if I were building a team from scratch, no, I wouldn't have that type of center as my center.
Right, and that's also one of the things that you're just kind of touching on there is just like the direction of the league. It's harder to see where someone who is a plotter, which is such a negative word to say now about NBA players, but he is a plotter, and a slow dude who's not that athletic. It's hard to see how he fits, but I mean.
The thing is,
he's got skills, man. He's got skills.
Yeah,
he's
and
got real talent.
These things go in cycles. Part of the reason is that there haven't been that many good big men who can score like that, and Jonas is one of them. And Jaha Okafor is the garbage to end all garbage in terms of like net effect on the floor.
Yikes!
But he can score inside. Not everyone can be Karl-Anthony Towns. Is basically.
Unfortunately, not everyone can be the best.
Playing against Karl-Anthony Towns twice in 2.5 weeks is not going to make you look good as a plotting 23-year-old center.
But not every team has that.
No. Yeah. One, maybe the Knicks.
Yeah, Porzingis. He had himself a stretch. I like when
Dwayne Casey
plays center beside Melo.
Yeah.
It's terrifying, man.
That's why I understood Robin Lopez or Kyle O'Quinn.
Yeah.
I didn't understand both of those guys and Kevin Seraphin.
I forgot Kevin Seraphin plays on that team.
Yeah.
The KS Life. Shout out to the KS Life.
Yeah, Kyle O'Quinn's a guy, if they're looking to unload Jose Calderon in the offseason, teams with cap space, maybe. His value is going to be low because he hasn't played, but he's a guy who can.
He's got the jumper.
He's a good backup center.
Yeah.
Looking for a Biombo replacement. For $3.5 million? I don't know.
Kyle O'Quinn.
Yeah.
He'll fit right into
us Irish guys got to stick together, right?
Oh, boy. Of course, for sure.
All right, one more thing. We mentioned James Johnson. Okay, so one more thing on Jonas Valanciunas. Just whatever your case, whatever your stance on Jonas Valanciunas, maybe just come off the extreme a little bit.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah. Harsh.
Yeah.
Specifically you, Harsh.
Yeah, that last 10 minutes was a harsh subtweet. The subtweet wasn't a harsh subtweet. That last 10 minutes was a harsh subtweet. No, Harsh the best, though. Yeah, except he never shows up with me in 905 games anymore.
He's got obligations, man.
Could be SBU playing, man. Maybe
got obligations.
Yeah.
I was in Saga last weekend with Harsh, with the homie Harsh.
Damn, Arun too?
Metro Arunan, of course.
Oh, no. You didn't.
Beautiful morning. Beautiful morning.
If Arun don't trust you. Because Arun likes everyone, so seriously, if Arun don't trust you.
Yeah, there might actually be a problem.
All right, we mentioned JJ. We've been talking a lot about JJ.
Yes.
There's another JJ.
There's another
he just got bought out. Joe Johnson.
Oh, Joe Johnson. Okay, sorry.
So the Raptors aren't going to get Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson's been bought out. He's almost certainly going to the Cavaliers. Failing that, he has a comfort level in Atlanta. Miami got those beaches.
He does have a comfort level in Atlanta.
Well, apparently Atlanta's going to kick.
That's
is
true.
interested.
Yeah, that's true.
Having played for a franchise for a long time, I think would help. He's probably not coming to Toronto. He's almost definitely not coming to Toronto. The fact that the Raptors were at least interested is a positive sign. I think that they're not. They didn't make a trade at the deadline. They haven't jumped on a Shock Thompson or another Anthony Bennett upgrade. Joe Johnson would be fine. I'm mostly just encouraged that the Raptors have not closed the book on trying to improve the roster, at the margins.
If you're planning to buy an Anthony Bennett jersey, wait like 2 weeks.
Yeah, wait until after March 1st.
They'll be on sale. They'll be on sale.
They're probably already on sale.
Also,
at
if you're
the back
buying
of Anthony Bennett's mom's
car. By the way, they had at the Raptors.
They gave out an Anthony
Bennett jersey.
Yeah, Ronald Roberts actually.
Oh no! Oh no!
Man,
oh, no.
That poor guy. What a time to get in.
How is D League? How's D League stuff?
They've hit a bit of a skid. They're falling on some old habits. I mean, they're playing with only Bruno assigned and Ronald Roberts, their best player on an All-Star, is out. So
yeah, okay.
What are you gonna do? You're an expansion team. You just lost your best player, and you're not getting any NBA help.
By the way, this is something I've been wondering all season. Occasionally during the Raptors broadcast, they'll show you like the road to the 905 promo, and they'll just promo the 905. Yeah. Who is that player there?
Oh.
He's got like a thick beard.
Scott Suggs.
That's Scott Suggs,
Yeah.
right? So he's the guy? Like, why didn't they think to put Bruno on the promotional thing? I guess
I don't know. Scott Suggs is
he's good.
He's really solid. He's a guy that, like, his numbers don't pop that much. Like, he was an all-star injury replacement. But if an NBA team needed, like, a guy who could come in and not disrupt anything and give them pro minutes, like, he's like a 43% three-point shooter in back-to-back seasons. He's 26. He's been around a little bit. So in terms of, like, experience and transitioning, poise is the word I always use for what he brings to the 905, like in the recaps and stuff. Like, he's their steady scorer. He's...
Clippers, get on it. Doc Rivers, stop signing your family.
He's a phenomenal three-point shooter.
There you go.
Like, back-to-back years of 43%. Guess what? That D-League line, same distance. The line doesn't light up on the broadcast like in the NBA, but...
That is a flop.
Yeah, that's awful. Also, road to the 905 is the stupidest thing, because it's only the road to the 905 if you're coming eastbound.
Yes.
Like, is Oshawa also the road to the 905? Like, we would put another expansion team in Oshawa, and that could also be the road to the 905?
Dirty Shawa. No, we probably should not have any potential NBA players playing Oshawa.
I have
very turned off.
I have so much
the
issue
of Canada
with the branding of the 905. Like,
okay,
nobody's more D-League than me. But, like,
seriously, man,
the fact that you brand the entire team as a national brand and then you turn around and give the minor league team one area code.
Wasn't it voted, like, by some poll recently as, like, the worst D-League name, at least? And there's a lot of bad D-League names.
They're all bad.
It's almost like a policy that you have to have a bad name.
Yeah.
You make it look like, oh, where are you going tonight? Oh, staying in.
Yeah.
You gotta keep that shit a secret. You can't tell them you're seeing what is it?
I'm hanging out with Erie Bayhawk.
Erie Bayhawk.
Yeah, just me and Bay.
Fort Wayne Mad Ants.
Yo, shout out to Nightmare Ant, though. That's a mascot.
That's terrifying.
All right, we should wrap this up. We're over an hour, and we're now talking about the D-League.
Patreon?
Oh, yeah. If you like the work we do, and you like just listening to us for an hour ramble about scribbled notes on a notepad about the Raptors, you can go to patreon.com/RaptorsRepublic. If it's within your means to do so, and you can contribute, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. We owe a couple people shout-outs. I don't have the list in front of me, so next week those people will get a shout-out. I apologize to those people, but thank you very much. Your contributions are appreciated. You can follow William_Lou on Twitter. I'm Blake Murphy, ODC. Obviously, Raptors Republic. Will, do you have any parting shots for the people on this Friday morning?
You know what? Just one thing. I hope we don't overreact either way. Whether we destroy the Cavaliers, the Raptors destroy the Cavaliers tomorrow or today when you're hearing it probably, or if they lose really badly to the Cavaliers. I think that doesn't necessarily change the equation either way. You could probably draw some stylistic, conclusions from it, but for the most part, I think we all understand the Raptors are a class below the Cavaliers, and in a potential playoff series, the Raptors will be heavy underdogs. But I hope it's a good game, man. I really hope it's a good game, and it'll at least maybe get the Raptors some more exposure. Also, speaking of exposure,
Windhorst has been here all week.
Wow, check out Brian Windhorst.
He doesn't need us plugging him.
Yeah, no, Brian Windhorst is okay actually. I like him on podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of podcasts and exposure, listen to the Defeated with Harsh, with Metro Unin. We will probably talk about the Blue Jays sometime this week, actually. There's lots to talk about.
You getting a guest on for that one, or what?
Try to get the beer and ball.
All right.
But
he certainly fits that brand.
Buddy, yeah.
Are you going to show Saturday night?
Shout out to the Regrettables.
Get their new EP. Although I do have a question for them.
Yeah. Okay.
A 5-track's not an EP, right?
Okay.
That should be an LP.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Jonah.
Are you going to show on Saturday?
I don't know. Maybe.
You should.
I should. Where is it?
It'd be fun. I forget the venue. It's at Bloor and Bathurst, though.
That's really close. Yeah. I have really no excuses. That's not Lee's Palace, is it?
No.
Okay.
I forget what it's called. It's at 9:30 though.
Cool.
Album release party for the Regrettables.
Check it out.
Pearl Jam, Jace.
I think I might. You know what? I will go to that.
Yeah.
I will go to that. It's very
get a room there. Get Carlo out.
Get Carlo. Carlo Campo.
Yeah.
All right.
Harsh if he'll come into the big city.
Harsh loves Toronto.
He can crash on your on this floor here, where the wine bottles are.
No, I cleaned it up. I've been actually very tempted to walk over during the podcast and have some, but
of the wine.
Yeah, not the Jamie, not the Jamie.
Not the Jameson.
Yeah.
Not the what else?
Shout out to McNulty. Some like bourbon.
Really pulling back the curtain here.
Some bourbon.
You see how Will lives.
Yeah, that's how I roll.
All right. have a good weekend, everyone. Enjoy that Cavs-Raptors game.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be terrific. It's going to be a lot of fun. Basketball's great.
No Mo Williams.
Here's my thing.
Okay.
This is my parting shot, I guess.
There you go.
We are very long into a season where nothing in the regular season really matters. Mm-hmm. There are 6 weeks left. The schedule isn't particularly daunting. There's nothing particularly interesting other than Damari Carroll that's coming back that's going to happen. And the Raptors are still a ton of fun.
Yes.
It is, for a team that storyline-wise is very, very boring, the Raptors have managed to stay interesting and fun all throughout the season, and we should be thankful for that. And they're really good.
Especially you. And me in the media.
Yeah, I should be thankful because I don't know what I'd write otherwise. But
buddy, if they tank this year,
if they lose in the first round, you mean? I'm done.
No. Yeah, well,
I'm done.
Yeah, you're done.
I'm out. Like I'll just not.
Raptors, all right. There's enough pressure on you already. All right. There's more.
Blake will quit and go write baseball.
There you go.
All right. Thanks so much for listening. Tune in next week. We'll have another Raptors Weekly Extra podcast that we never renamed.
It's not that bad.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. Just like it'll be fine if the Raptors lose.
I can't believe people listen to this whole podcast.
Yeah. We're just rambling now because you won't hit the end button.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone.
See ya.
Like an alley-oop. Drop rhymes like dimes when I drive the hoop. Y'all must tune in if you want the scoop. The Rapcast crew